this is Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make a little floral SuperDuo bracelet. And this is what it looks like. Here's the clasping. This is what it looks like on the wrist. It turns out really pretty. I'll get you in a little closer here. And let's take this off and look at it off the wrist. And this is what it looks like. It's really very pretty little bracelet. I'll get you in a little closer so you can see it a little better. And this is what it looks like. So, and here's the back of it. So it turns out really pretty. It's really quick and it's an easy pattern, so you should be able to do this fairly quickly. And let's go ahead and look at what it takes to make this particular bracelet and get started. Okay, for this project, we will be using some SuperDuo beads, and I am using a metallic matte purple. And then we will be using some 4x3 rondelles, and this is a pink opal. We will also be using seed beads, so we will be using an 8/0, 11/0, and 15/0. My 8/0 and 15/0 are galvanized permanent finish Starlight in the Toho line. And my 11/0 is Montana Gold, also a Toho. Then I'm going to be using some 6-pound Fireline in the smoke color because my beads are darker. If you're going to use lighter beads, of course, use the crystal color. Then I have a toggle clasp, and this is about a medium-sized toggle clasp. You have to keep in mind that the size of your clasp is going to affect the length of your bracelet, but you can use any clasping you would like. I'm using a size 12 beading needle, and I'm going to add on to my beading needle about 4 to 5 feet of thread. If you need to extend your thread during this project and you do not know how, then I will post a link in the description box beneath the video player for a video that will show you how to do that. So let's get started. Okay, to start this project, pick up onto your beading needle 3 SuperDuos, and then pick up an 8/0 seed bead, and then pick up 3 more SuperDuos and 1 more 8/0 seed bead, just like this. Then bring this to the end of your thread. You don't have to leave a long tail, but you need to leave enough to hold on to and tie a knot. So actually, let's just go ahead and tie a knot. So just grab your tail thread and cross it over your working thread, and then bring that tail through the loop twice. And then just pull a knot. Let's pull this together nice. And then we're going to go ahead and sew back through these beads. So I'm coming out right between the SuperDuo and the 8/0 seed bead where my knot is, and I'm just going to go up through the beads. With SuperDuos, a lot of times you can't get through all of them at once, so you'll have to go through a couple and then pick up where you left off. Simply because they lay kind of funny. The holes aren't readily available to go through. So we're just going to keep going through. Everything's going to get all weird and loose, and that's okay. Just keep going. Okay. So evidently my knot did not hold, so I'm going to tie a knot again. I'm right where my tail thread and my 8/0 right where my tail thread and my working thread come together, excuse me. And I'm just going to tie another knot. I'm just going to do an overhand knot. Perhaps, if it will allow me to do so, there we go. And just pull that together. And this is what I have. Now, let's rearrange, get in closer. What we're going to do is, since we're up here by the knot, let's sew down to the 8/0 on the other side. Just to kind of get our thread more intertwined before we move on too far. Now, I've gone through the 3 SuperDuos. I'm coming out of the 8/0 on the side opposite of my tail, and I'm just going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead. And I am going to go back into the 8/0 I'm coming out of on the opposite side from which I'm coming out, just like this. And then I'm going to go back through that bead again, just like this, go through the one I added. And then I'm going to go back through the 8/0 that I'm attaching to, just like that. Now I want to sew back up into this bead here, and we're going to go ahead and put on our clasping so that we don't have to do that later. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up an 11/0 and then an 8/0, and then we're going to drop our clasp down. So I have an 11/0 seed bead and an 8/0 on my thread. Then I'm going to go through the loop of my clasp and just bring it down. Just let it fall away, that's fine. Then go back into just the 8/0 seed bead. So I'm going to go through this 8/0 and I'm going to hold on to it. And everything's fumbly right now, so just do the best you can. And then drag this down, the clasp down to the 8/0. Then pick up another 11/0 and go through the opposite side of the 8/0 you started in, right here. Let's get in a little closer. And just pull your thread through. Now we have this little loose connection here. Everything just wants to fall out of my hands. So we're going to sew back through this a couple of times. So let's do once on camera, and then we'll go off camera and do it again. So we're coming out of this 8/0 here. We're going to go up into the 11/0 here, and then into the 8/0 and into the loop of the clasp. Then we're going to go back down into the 8/0 and the 11/0 on the other side from which we started, just like that. And then we're going to go back into the 8/0 we're attaching to, right here. Now, go ahead and sew through that again once or twice more. I would probably recommend twice more just to make sure you have enough strength, and then we'll continue with our pattern. Okay, so I have sewn through my clasping 2 more times just to make sure it's nice and secure. I'm going to clip this tail down a little bit just so that it's not in my way so badly. And now I'm coming out of this 8/0 seed bead here that I attached my clasping to. I am going to go into the 8/0 that's between the SuperDuos here. And I'm going to pull my thread through. Now I am going to pick up a 15/0 seed bead, and then I'm going to pick up a 3x4 rondelle, and then another 15/0 seed bead, just like this. And I'm going to go from this 8/0 seed bead to this 8/0 seed bead in the same side from which I'm coming out of this one. So I'm going to go straight down and across, just like this. And I'm going to hold on to my piece and pull these beads down until they lay right across the SuperDuos, just like this. Then I'm going to turn this a little bit, and I am going to get that tail out of the way and pick up a 15/0 and go into the rondelle right here. I'm going to hold on to the piece with my thumb and my finger and pull that 15/0 up. And just try to arrange it so that it lays nice next to the first one you put in, and then pick up a 15/0 and go into the opposite side of the 8/0 that you're closest to now, right there. Just like this. Now we're going to sew back down through, so we're going to go into the 15/0 and the 3x4 rondelle. Then we're going to go through 15/0 on this side of the rondelle, and we're going to go into the 8/0. Right there. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this down even more because it's just going to bug me. Just like that. And now we have our first unit. So the second unit, we have to pick up an 8/0 seed bead. We're coming out of this side of the 8/0 here. We're going to go into the opposite side of the 8/0 we're coming out of and pull our thread through. This should bring this seed bead down so that it lays on top of the previous one. Then we're coming out of the one we're attaching to, we're going to go back into the one we just put on, just like this. Hold on to it with your thumb and finger so you can get a little tension on it as you come through, and then go into the one we're attaching to, just like that. Then come back through the one that we just added. Now we're going to pick up 3 SuperDuos, and then we're going to pick up an 8/0, and then we're going to pick up 3 more SuperDuos, just like this. We're coming out of this side of this 8/0, we're going to go into the opposite side, and we're going to pull all these beads down, just like this. Now we're going to sew back through them, and again, it's wobbly, it wants to go all over the place. Just do the best you can. I'm going through 2 SuperDuos, and then I can probably go through all 3 of these beads on the bottom here. Just navigate through the best you can until you come back around and you're coming out of the 8/0 you started in, just like this. And now you're going to pick up a 15/0 seed bead and a 3x4 rondelle and a 15/0 seed bead, just like this. You're going to go from this 8/0 to this 8/0 on the same side. Just go into that 8/0 and pull this down. And this is what you should have. Now pick up a 15/0, go back into the rondelle. Put your thumb and finger over that rondelle and pull until that 15/0 slides down up against the rondelle. There's no slack and everything is nice and tight and neat. Pick up a 15/0 seed bead and then go into the 8/0 that you started your attachment in and pull this down. Then just sew back through your 15/0 and your rondelle, and then the 15/0 here. Come through the 8/0 seed bead. Then we're just going to attach another 8/0. So we're coming out of this 8/0, pick up an 8/0, go into the opposite side, and pull that 8/0 down. And then secure it by sewing back through. So go into the 8/0 you just added, go into the 8/0 on your piece, and then back through the 8/0 that you added. Then pick up 3 SuperDuos, an 8/0, and 3 SuperDuos. Then you're going to go into the opposite side of the 8/0 you're coming out of and just pull all these beads around into a circle, just like this, and sew back through them. If you have to go one at a time, that's okay, you can do that. Just make sure you get them all and that you're sewing through the SuperDuo hole that you started in. Don't go into the second hole. Go all the way around. Until you're back into the 8/0 that you're attaching to, just like that. Then you're going to pick up a 15/0 seed bead and a rondelle and a 15/0. And you're going to go from this 8/0 to this 8/0 in the same side of the hole that you're coming out of, just like this. So it's straight across. Then pick up a 15/0, go into the rondelle, hold on to the rondelle and pull your thread through and give a little tug, and then pick up a 15/0, go into the 8/0 that you started in, and then you're going to pass back through the 15/0 on the side you're coming out of, the 15-0, the rondelle, and the 15-0. Give a little tug and go through the 8-0. Now you will attach another 8-0 to the 8-0 you're coming out of, and you will just repeat this process until you have 16 units. So I'm just counting each flower as a unit, of course, and I have 16 of them. At this point, I have about a 7¼ inch bracelet if I measure from the middle of my round portion of my toggle here. Now I want my bracelet to be about 7½ inches. So it's 7¼ now. I'm thinking I'm going to end up around 7½, maybe a tiny bit over 7½. But you can make as many units as you would like to get the length that you would like. The reason I am going so close to the length that I want to achieve in the end is because my embellishments are going to pull it in a little bit when I do my second run of beads on this particular pattern. So you will have to adjust your length according to the size of your clasping and according to the length that you usually wear. So now that I have made all of my units, I have ended by putting my 8-0 seed bead on top of the previous one, just like we've been doing to start each unit. And then I'm going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead and an 8-0 seed bead, and I'm going to drop it down to my piece. And then I'm going to pick up my clasp end, and I'm going to go through the loop of my clasp. Then I'm just going to go back through just the 8-0 seed bead, ignoring the 11-0 seed bead I put on. I'll hold on to this 8-0 and I'll pull everything down until it lines up like this. And then I'll pick up an 11-0 and go into the opposite side of the 8-0 that we're attaching to. And this is what I have. Now sew through this twice or 3 times and we'll be back. Okay, so I have secured my clasping and I'm coming out of this 8-0 seed bead right here that I have secured it to. I'm going to go down into the 8-0 seed bead in the flower itself. So the one right beneath the one that you're coming out of, that the clasping is attached to. So now that we're coming out of this one in the flower here, let me rearrange my camera. I'm not going to stay in frame if I do this. So let's get closer. Now that we're coming out of this 8-0 seed bead right here, we're going to pick up 3 of our 15-0 seed beads. And once we have the 3 15-0s, we're going to go into the second hole of the SuperDuo. Just like that. Now we're just going to do a series of 11-0 seed beads between the SuperDuos in the second hole, just to kind of close everything up and give a pretty little accent. So I'm coming out of the SuperDuo second hole now. I'm going to go into the next SuperDuo with an 11-0 on my thread and just pop the 11-0 between, just like this. When I get to the second flower, I'm going to just continue doing the same thing. I'm going to put an 11-0 between the 2 petals. From the last one of the first flower and then the first one of the second flower, just like this. And we're just going to continue traveling all the way down the bracelet, putting 11-0 seed beads into the second holes of all the SuperDuos here, all the way down. Just like this. Get you close. Flip this up with the angle of my camera, makes it kind of sideways. And just continue putting the 11-0 seed beads, not seed weeds, seed beads all the way down to the end. And when we get to the end, we'll come back. Okay, so now you can see I have done my entire embellishment. So I put 11-0s between each and every petal of the SuperDuos, just like this. And now I am coming out of the very last one on this side. So I'm going to pick up 3 15-0 seed beads onto my needle, and I'm coming out of this second hole in this last petal here. I'm going to slide directly into this 8-0 that's between the SuperDuos right here. And let's get you in close, and I'm just going to pull this through. Then I'm going to pick up 3 more of my 15-0 seed beads, and I'm going to go into the hole, the outside hole of the SuperDuo on this side, just like this. Straighten it all out. And let me get in camera here. I hope that I was in camera when I did that. It just slid through the second hole. So I'm going to make sure my embellishment looks nice on the top here. Just arrange it until it looks halfway decent. And then begin putting 11-0 seed beads again all the way down this side. So I'm going to pick up an 11-0. And I'm going to turn it this way so I can actually function here. And I'm just going to go from SuperDuo to SuperDuo with 11-0 seed beads, just like this. And of course, when I get to the next flower, I'll just go directly into it. It's like this. So every single SuperDuo, you'll slide through and put an 11-0 and then slide through the next one, all the way down to the very end of the piece. And so you can see what that will look like. So continue with your 11-0s, go all the way down to the end. We'll come back, tie off the thread, and see what we've got. Okay, so I have done my embellishment on this entire side now too, and you can see it's just really a very pretty little bracelet. So I didn't get a whole lot of shrinkage. I'm still going to end up with about a 7.5, 7 3/4 inch bracelet. So make sure that you go pretty true to your length. Give yourself about half an inch short of the bracelet length that you want to achieve. And don't worry too much about shrinkage because we didn't get a whole lot. Now I am designing this, so I apologize for not knowing exactly as I'm doing it. Sometimes I have to finish and then I figure it out. But anyway, this is where we're at. We're coming out of this last SuperDuo here after putting in our last 11-0. Pick up 3 15-0 seed beads and then go directly into this 8-0 that we started in. So down here between the SuperDuos, and then I'm going to try, I can't go through those 15-0s. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this 8-0 here. Let me get you really close. Pull this in, lay them on top of the SuperDuo, and then I'm going to try to go through these 15-0s on this side. If I can't, then I'll figure out another way, but they're pretty tight. So yeah, I can get through them. So I've gotten through 2 here. Then I'll go through this last one right here. Just however you can get through those 3 15-0s. So that now both sides have the little 15-0s on top. And now we're going to go through the second hole in the SuperDuo here, and I caught my thread, so let me get that off of there. Do I have more catches? No. And I want to mention too, when I knotted in the very beginning, the very first unit, my knot slipped, and when I cut my tail short, it slipped even more, and I had to go back through and sew again. So make sure you tie a very secure knot. Sew around your first unit twice, and then tie another knot if you have to, and then proceed, because my knot slipped and I had to go back through. I just wanted to let you know that. So now we're going to go through this hole here in the SuperDuo right there and go through that 11-0. And then between the 11 O's and the SuperDuo here, I'm going to target the little thread bridge in there. I'm going to put my needle in, and I'm going to make sure I make a loop that is between the 11O and the SuperDuo, and then I'm going to go through that loop and draw my knot down on the thread bridge between the beads, and then I'm going to sew into the SuperDuo and the next 11O, and I'm just going to do that again. So I'll go between, situate my loop so that when I tie my knot, it will go between the beads and not over the top of them, just like that. And then I can go through another SuperDuo. And this one's at a funny angle with the 11O, so you just go through the SuperDuo, then go through the 11O, and I'm going to go through a few beads here. Now you can tie and sew through as much as you want, but I don't want my video to be too long, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut this here, leaving a little tag, and then since my thread seems to want to slip a ton, I am going to melt a little blob down so that it blobs down into the beads, and it gives me another feel safe here, like another knot. And this is what the units look like. This turned out really pretty. So I mean, it's not a real original thing to do to make a flower type of situation with SuperDuos. They're perfect leaf shapes, so it's not truly original, but the way I've done it is a little bit different than some of the others, which was done purposely, of course. So this is what it looks like, and I am going to show you exactly what it measured out to be. So this is 16 units. Most everyone's going to want to stop at like 15. Unless you want a larger bracelet, then go ahead and go to 16 or 17. But if you want a small bracelet, go to 14. And here is what my length turned out to be. It's a little over 7.5 inches, which is a little too big for me, but it's not horrible. So I'm gonna put it on and I'll show you. Okay, so here it is, and you can see I have a little bit of extra length here. I generally like to go right around 7 inches, but this is a little big, but it's not terrible, and it's really pretty. Here's the clasping so you can see what it looks like. It's pretty. The whole thing is quite pretty. And another way to shorten a little bit of length too is when you come out of this, when you make your first one, you can make it directly into this first 8O seed bead instead of putting another one on top to put your clasping. What I'm trying to say is you can put your clasping directly on the first unit without having another 8O seed bead on top of it, if you would like. So that would also kind of draw it in a little bit in the clasping area. Anyway, this is what it looks like. I really like it. I think it's really pretty. I like the color scheming. I like the flexibility and the way it feels. It's a nice substantial bracelet. It feels good. It moves well because of the 8Os in between. Turned out really nice. Anyway. Oh God, Alexa just scared the crap out of me. Alexa, stop! Sorry guys, didn't mean to yell. That about gave me a heart attack. Anyway, this is what we've got. And I guess I have to leave that in since that's the end of my video. Oh man, my heart is still racing. Okay, anyway, see you later. Have a good day, night, evening, morning, whatever it is. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.